What happens when a man who spent his whole life intimidating others finally meets someone he can't scare? That's exactly what's unfolding in Tulsa King, Season 3. As Sylvester Stallone's Dwight Manfredi finds himself outmatched, outsmarted, and, for the first time, genuinely afraid. And that fear has a name: Jeremiah Dunmire. Played by Robert Patrick, Jeremiah is shaping up to be Dwight's most dangerous adversary yet. Not because he's stronger or more powerful, but because he represents everything Dwight thought he had left behind. In a world built on intimidation and loyalty, Dwight's fear of Jeremiah isn't just about physical danger. It's psychological, emotional, and deeply personal. From the very start of Tulsa King, Dwight Manfredi has carried himself with an air of calm authority. He's the kind of man who walks into a room and instantly commands respect, not by yelling, but by simply existing. After spending 25 years in prison for keeping quiet, Dwight emerged as a man with old-school mafia values: loyalty, respect, and control. But the third season of Tulsa King has shattered that image, peeling back the layers of confidence and showing us a Dwight who, for the first time, doesn't have all the answers. And Jeremiah Dunmire is the catalyst for that unraveling. Robert Patrick, who fans will recognize from Terminator 2 and Peacemaker, brings an unshakable menace to Jeremiah. In an interview with TV Insider, Patrick explained that the dynamic between Jeremiah and Dwight is built on fear, but not the way we'd expect. According to him, Dwight tries to intimidate Jeremiah, but deep down, he's the one who's scared. That reversal is brilliant storytelling. It tells us that Dwight, the man who once stared down mob bosses without blinking, is now facing someone who knows exactly how to break him without firing a single shot. Jeremiah isn't like the villains we've seen before in Tulsa King. He's not loud, reckless, or emotional. He's quiet. He studies people, waits for them to make a mistake, and then strikes. That's what makes him so terrifying and so effective. In Season 3, especially around Episode 3, it's becoming clear that Jeremiah is the kind of man who thrives on chaos while still remaining completely in control. He's calculated, patient, and unpredictable. The exact opposite of Dwight, who's built his empire by controlling every variable. Dwight's fear isn't just about losing a fight. It's about losing his grip on the one thing he's always had: control. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's easy to see why Jeremiah represents such a unique threat to Dwight's world. Throughout the series, Dwight has always been the guy who figures things out. Whether it was dealing with Kayla Waltrip, Jackie Ming, or Chicky Invernizzi, he's always managed to come out on top. Sometimes through violence, other times through negotiation. He's adapted, improvised, and rebuilt himself from exile to empire. But Jeremiah is different. He's not part of the old mob world Dwight understands. He doesn't follow the same rules or codes. Jeremiah isn't trying to prove himself to anyone. He's trying to dismantle Dwight's empire from the ground up, piece by piece, until Dwight is forced to confront the truth: that his time and his way of doing things may be over. The brilliance of Season 3 is how it slowly builds its tension. Early on, Dwight still tries to maintain his swagger, pretending he's unfazed by Jeremiah's presence. But we start seeing cracks, small moments of hesitation, flashes of anger that feel less like confidence and more like panic. Dwight's crew starts sensing it too. For years, they've looked at him as the Rock, the man who can't be broken. But Jeremiah's arrival changes that dynamic entirely. Suddenly, Dwight's confidence looks like denial. His threats sound hollow, and the man who's always been in control starts acting like someone who's desperately trying not to lose it. What makes Jeremiah such an effective antagonist is that he feels like a ghost from Dwight's past, a reflection of everything he used to be, but darker, colder, and without conscience. Jeremiah embodies the brutality of the old-school mafia days that Dwight once survived. But unlike Dwight, he hasn't softened with age. Dwight's time in Tulsa made him human again. He built friendships, found a sense of community, even flirted with the idea of redemption. But Jeremiah, he's a reminder that redemption doesn't exist in their world. You either dominate or get destroyed. And that's exactly why Dwight fears him, because Jeremiah is proof that you can't outrun who you are. Episode 3, in particular, captures this perfectly. It's the first time we truly see Dwight shaken. Jeremiah makes his move, not with violence, but with precision. He undercuts Dwight's influence, isolates his allies, and turns what was once a thriving empire into a crumbling fortress. Dwight's attempts to intimidate Jeremiah fall flat, not because Jeremiah is immune to fear, but because he's already seen worse. He's lived through the kind of brutality that Dwight only remembers. This is where the psychological warfare begins. Dwight realizes that Jeremiah isn't playing to win, he's playing to destroy. This tension pushes Tulsa King into darker territory than ever before. The show, originally seen as a crime drama with flashes of humor, now feels like a slow burn tragedy. Dwight isn't just fighting for his empire anymore. He's fighting for his identity. Every time he looks at Jeremiah, he's forced to confront the reality that his glory days are gone. The old rules of respect, loyalty, and family mean nothing to this new breed of villain. Jeremiah doesn't negotiate. He doesn't honor truces. He doesn't care about tradition. And for Dwight, that's more terrifying than any gun or knife, because it means there's no longer any logic to the violence. What's even more fascinating is how Jeremiah mirrors Dwight's younger self. When Dwight was coming up, he was ruthless, ambitious, and unrelenting. Now Jeremiah represents that same hunger, but stripped of humanity. It's almost poetic, the past catching up to the present. The same qualities that made Dwight powerful are now the same ones threatening to destroy him. And that's what makes season 3 feel so personal. It's not just about crime. It's about legacy, fear, and the painful realization that time doesn't just change you, it replaces you. The writing this season leans into that theme heavily. Jeremiah isn't just a villain, he's a symbol. He's the embodiment of the chaos that Dwight can't contain, the living proof that there's always someone hungrier, meaner, and more desperate waiting in the shadows. And as Dwight begins to realize this, his fear becomes palpable. You can see it in Stallone's performance, the subtle expressions, the quiet moments where Dwight stares off, knowing that his empire could crumble at any second. It's some of Stallone's best work in years, and it shows that Tulsa King isn't just coasting on his concept anymore, it's evolving. And let's talk about the implications. Jeremiah's introduction signals a turning point not just for Dwight, but for the entire show. Tulsa King has always walked a fine line between comedy and drama, but season 3 is firmly in darker territory now. Jeremiah's brutality doesn't leave room for jokes or clever escapes. The body count is rising, alliances are cracking, and Dwight's charm isn't enough to keep people loyal anymore. Even his closest allies start questioning whether the Manfredi name still carries weight. The fear of Jeremiah isn't just Dwight's burden. It's infecting everyone around him. By the time we reach the midpoint of the season, it's clear that Jeremiah isn't a villain who will disappear after a few episodes. He's being set up as a long-term force, potentially even carrying into Tulsa King Season 4, which has already been renewed. That's what makes him so terrifying. He's not just another obstacle. He's a new chapter in Dwight's downfall. And with his growing arsenal and connections, Jeremiah isn't just going after Dwight's money or influence. He's targeting his reputation, his relationships, and the fragile trust he's built in Tulsa. The inevitable conclusion seems obvious. All roads are leading to war, but the real question is what kind of man Dwight will be when that war comes. Will he revert to the cold, merciless capo he once was? Or will his time in Tulsa, the friendships, the lessons, the glimpses of humanity hold him back? Because if Jeremiah forces Dwight to abandon everything he's learned, then even if he wins, he'll lose the part of himself that made this story worth telling. That's the genius of Jeremiah's role. He's not just the villain of Tulsa King, he's the test of Dwight's soul. If Tulsa King Season 3 is about anything, it's about fear, not of death or defeat, but of irrelevance. Dwight's fear of Jeremiah isn't weakness, it's recognition. He sees in Jeremiah what he once was, unstoppable, unmerciful, and untouchable. And that's what makes this rivalry so compelling. It's not just a fight for power, it's a fight against time, legacy, and the ghosts of who you used to be. By the end of Season 3, Dwight will either reclaim his throne or be buried under the weight of his own empire. But one thing's for sure, Jeremiah Dunmire has already done something no one else in Tulsa King has managed to do: make Dwight Manfredi afraid.